Anime fans are going to love this film. I am filming this review independently from Arturo. I went to go see Suzume today, or sorry, Suzume. Yeah, I always want to say Suzume. It's Suzume. Suzume, I think. Whatever. I went to go see this anime with Arturo today, and we're going to film a review, a collab review in a day or two. But I wanted to just sit down and talk about this just by myself. Oops, sorry. I like anime. I'm not huge into anime, but I do enjoy a lot of what I've seen. Are you kidding? Hold on. Come on. What was I even saying before this little stinker interrupted me? Oh, I was saying I enjoy anime definitely much more than I used to when I was younger. When I was younger, I didn't like the art style. I didn't like the way the mouth flapping went, and for whatever reason, it just didn't appeal to me as much as it does now. In a lot of ways, the stories that we're given through the vehicle of animation, the quality is a lot better than some of the stories we're given in a lot of movies that come out these days. The interesting thing about this anime, and I guess the others that the director, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Makoto Shinkai. I might have butchered it, but I think that's how it's said. I have only seen one of his other movies, I think. It was the one called Your Name, and I remember I enjoyed it. It pulled at the heartstrings. I got a little bit grabbed in the throat there. And that's about all I remember about it. Maybe some time sort of stuff happening, maybe time loopy or time travel-ish. Anyway, whatever. I think it reminded me a bit of The Lake House, the premise of Your Name. I have not seen Weathering with You. I've heard it's good. But this movie, I think it's probably my favorite of his that I've seen so far. Granted, I haven't seen a ton. If there's other titles of his, maybe I'm just not thinking about. I haven't seen as many anime movies as I have seen anime shows or episodes. So this film, right off the bat, I want to say I loved the animation. It was so good, like little tiny touches. I'll give you an example, like tiny little things that made this feel so much more, I don't know, just it flowed so much better than some anime I've seen. The example I was going to give you is she's going down this hill on her bike, and she's bringing her bike to a slow down. She's slowing it down, and you know how when you're on a bike, you put your foot down on the ground to slow it down, and so you kind of, your foot's tapping on the ground as you slow the bike down. The way that scene or that particular moment was drawn, it jumped out at me as being very realistic. I just liked that little tiny touch, like I said. And there were moments like that throughout. But the color palette, the scenery, the way the images were drawn was gorgeous. Absolutely no complaints at all about that aspect of this movie. Something else I appreciated about it is the very serious thematic elements like loss, not knowing when the last moment with a loved one will be, and trying to deal with painful experiences of the past. And I felt like this dealt with those sorts of things in a very heartbreaking way. I kid you not, you guys, there was a scene that happened in here with a little child, and the way that child was talking, and especially because you knew what was going on with the child, it was so heartbreaking. I got weepy. And I remember feeling very emotional when I saw Your Name, so I guess it doesn't surprise me that this movie would bring out that sort of sentiment in me as well. I started off talking about that when I really should have explained the premise of the film first, if you don't already know. The story is Suzume, she encounters this guy that seems familiar to her. Like she thinks maybe she knows him. And she also starts to see things and notice things in the distance and in the distance of the landscape. And because of these things that she sees that nobody else seems to see, and because of this encounter with this guy that she feels like there's just this weird connection she has with him. She's immediately drawn to him. She doesn't understand why. And he's connected with this stuff that she can see that nobody else can. And so she jumps into this adventure, or she jumps into this thing that's happening, and she goes on an adventure basically with this guy. Some stuff happens. She learns about things. She finds out that she has the ability to help in ways that most of the rest of the people around her will never understand the importance of what she did. And I was noticing that there's a quote that I had written down that seems to be missing. I think it was something along the lines of the most important jobs. Gosh, I'm so frustrated that I don't know where it is, but I think it was like, some of the most important jobs are the ones that people don't know about or will never know about. That was the gist. And so that was kind of, that applied to what she was doing. A lot of people had no idea that things that she was involved in was helping to save many, many people. And I'll keep it vague, but anyway, throughout the course of the story and the journey that she goes on with this guy that she's drawn to, it sort of feels like there's two separate phases of this story. She meets this guy, she gets involved in this stuff that's happening, and then about halfway through the film, and it's a long film, it's a little bit more than 2 hours long, there's no post-credit scene at the very, very end, but there are some scenes that it shows as the beginning of the end credits happens. So you can't help but notice that because they're just continuous until the final scene, and then there's nothing else. But she's going on this journey, some stuff is happening, and then they reach this certain point in their journey, and then it takes like a shift, and she has to go on a separate type of journey. And so it felt like there were these two different sorts of storylines. They were connected, but there was definitely that shift that happened about midway through. And I was really curious to find out where she was going to end up, how things were going to play along with her and this guy and her and her aunt, because her aunt was her caretaker. She had lost her mother at a very young age, and there was that conflict with her aunt, and so their situation played out throughout the course of the film as well. Came to a pretty dramatic head-to-head sort of argument / confrontation that they had with each other, and that was pretty gut-wrenching too, to see this thing happen. So yeah, it feels like almost like two stories in one, even though they're very closely connected. Like I said, there's this definite shift that occurs, and then she has to go on this other sort of journey of her own. Yeah, trying to stay vague, like I said, but I really appreciated this. I don't have a ton I'm going to say about it because I feel like I'll be a little bit more talkative about this whenever I can bounce things off of Arturo and our friend Matt, who went to go see this with us. So those are the things I appreciated. The story, very emotionally, just heartfelt, heart-wrenching sort of story. The voice acting, I personally appreciate the dubbed versions much more than the subtitled ones. I cannot stand to watch anime in the original language. I can't stand it. So if there's a dubbed version, that's the one I'm always going to go for. That's the one we got, and I think that the voice actors did a great job. I like the performance of the main actor who did Suzume, and the guy who did Soto, I think that was his name, Soto or something. And also I recognized another voice actor in here, Amanda C. Miller, who I'm familiar with her work. Arturo recognized her voice right away. I think if he hadn't mentioned it, eventually I would have said to myself, that sounds like Amanda. She's very talented. She did a great job in here. So it was kind of cool to see that she was involved in this. I had no idea she was in it until I watched the movie. The voice acting of the child who played young Suzume, oh, that kid, especially that scene, oh my gosh, that just killed my heart. was so, so good the way she did that. And effort sounds are pretty good. There were some moments kind of a little bit clunky with the acting, and that's going to tie into one of the few cons that I had. I only had 2 cons written down. But yeah, in general, loved it. And if you like anime, I think you're going to love it, especially, like I said, if you like this guy's work. It was very, very good. Just beautiful piece of art. And yeah, it's no huge complaints about it at all. Tying into some cons, not huge, it's so trivial with regard to the voice acting. And I don't know how much of this is just voice acting or the way anime is done, but sometimes there are weird effort sounds that happen. Hold on again. Oh, jeez, I swear. Sometimes there are weird effort sounds that happen in an anime that don't make any sense to me. Reactions that characters have, and it's not necessarily the fault of the voice actors or even the effort sounds. It's just I don't understand why this is a thing in anime. I noticed it happened at least twice in this story, maybe more, but at least twice. I don't remember the specifics of the first time, but I wrote down the specifics of the second time. Sometimes there are overly dramatic expressions and reactions to non-issue events in an anime movie or episode. That just, the example is someone was just smoking a cigarette and the reaction of the person with them was like, it was something ridiculous like that. Why are you acting that way over just this dude smoking a cigarette? And there was no commentary on the fact that he was smoking a cigarette. So I have no idea what I'm missing. I don't know. Why is that a thing in anime? Maybe I'll give you an example. It's just a general example. Maybe someone drinking out of a cup and someone reacts to it. Just like, what is the deal with this? I don't get it. I've seen it happen enough that it is definitely something that jumps out at me when it occurs. And I'm thinking something's either getting lost in translation, maybe stuff that was said around it, or that's just a thing. Overreaction to non-important stuff is a thing in anime. Whatever. The other thing is there was an event that happened, and yeah, a lot of this story is fantastical. It's supernatural, paranormal type of stuff that's going on. But there's a scene where characters are stuck by the side of the road, and very conveniently, they find an old discarded bike there that they can get on and ride off on. Okay, that was a little bit too convenient. These are the sorts of things I notice in other types of films too. Anyway, that jumped out at me. I noticed it. Those are the only 2 things I have in the con category. I really basically have no negatives for this film except those 2 tiny little things, and they're such non-issues. I almost feel like me talking about them is the overreaction anime type of thing that I was complaining about. But in general, this movie's great. If you like animation, if you like anime, give this a go. I believe you will enjoy it. I will be surprised if you don't. Very heartfelt, very well acted, well written, very moving, emotional type of storytelling, and I enjoyed it enough that I wanted to talk about it specifically in an individual video with you guys. So whenever Arturo and I do our own review, maybe I'll put that up on my channel. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this will serve as enough of a review / commentary of Suzume. Okay, I don't have anything else. Wrapping this up. Later, guys.